Okay, we'll start with learning in RBFNs. It is in this one. um, to tune the center of the basis functions, the variety of methods are followed. In the previous class, what we knew, there were Q functions for iterations for which you are training. Okay, but in RBFN, when you use for regularization method, you are using certain matrix which are less than Q, and a weighted norm is used to compute the distance. A norm is nothing but a distance. Instead of taking the distance between successive samples, that is input and output, you are multiplying with certain weight vectors so as to reduce the number of computation. And at the output side also, you are going to bias the weight vector so that you are going to get the output vector. Okay, these were the things that you are doing in the previous section. Now, how learning takes place in RBFNs. Now, any RBFN is based on the center of the basis function. So, how do you choose the center of the basis function? Now, in this one, let us choose the random subset selection. So what we do is, out of Q training points, let us say there are 100 training points, out of which, let us say you choose only 20 or 30 training points. These training points are chosen totally randomly, okay, 20, 50, 35, 46, like this, and those act as the centers for the selection. That is, and the centers of the Gaussian basis functions are set to those functions. These 20 points will act as a center. Now, what actually a Gaussian basis function will do is, let us consider mu1. Mu1 is a center of one cluster. It will measure the distance between center of one cluster to the center of another cluster. Let us say a total 100 were data, out of which you are divided, you are taken 20 random samples. These 20 random samples act as the uh, center one, that is center mu1 mu2 up to mu20. This mu1 belongs to one cluster, mu2 belongs to another cluster. Like this, you have 20 clusters. In each one of them will act as a center. What we do is, from each each cluster, let us say there are 10 samples. Whatever you have chosen, currently chosen as a center, the difference between each sample with the point which is chosen as a center is calculated. Okay, once you calculate these two, maximum of those center is found, and that distance is nothing but alpha. So in a cluster, maximum distance between the centered value and the other value. If there are 10 values, let us say there are 10 values, one of them will act as a center, means let us say first one with seventh one, second one with seventh one, third one with seventh one, like this it is made. Okay, so which one will get you maximum value, that is act as a maximum distance alpha. By based on this alpha, now I'm going to write the Gaussian basis function that will act as a hidden neuron. This Gaussian basis function is written only for the hidden neurons. G of mod of x minus mu I, x is the input and mu I is a center, is equal to e power minus mod of x minus mu I whole square divided by 2 sigma square, where sigma is equal to alpha by root of 2q. Okay, q is how many how many basis functions you have chosen. Let us say 100 neurons, or instead of 100 iterations you are doing only 20 or 30 iterations, that becomes small q. And sigma tells you how much spread your data is. The more the spread the data is, it becomes more training is required in order to understand the training pattern of the that is whatever data you are going to train. For example, some f of x you are going to train to predict the future samples of the network. So how better is your training depends on what is the value of sigma. So to choose sigma suitably, so that training will train adequately, so that the subsequent samples are predicted properly by your algorithm. That's what is the total aim of the all these RBFN networks. Now let us look into the hybrid learning procedure. In the hybrid learning procedure, first determine the centers of the basis functions using the clustering algorithm. So this clustering algorithm will divide the entire data set into different number of clusters. In each cluster, a center is chosen. Okay, so based on the center, what we will do, we'll use the other data points which are other than the center to find the distance. Okay, so then tune the hidden to output weights using LMS procedure. So what we do is least mean square algorithm is used to find the distance between the data points and the output. Okay, so LMS algorithm tunes this difference between input and the output such that at one point the distance gets minimized. This happens by tuning the weight vectors, because you cannot control xi and di. Di is the output of the network and xi is the input to the network. So the difference can be controlled by using the weight vectors of the network. Okay, so with the centers of the Q basis functions, what you are defining, let us say if there are 20 clusters, each one has a center, and those will act as a center for the clusters. And how many centers you are defining? You are centering the defining Q basis functions. Okay, from which we are going to determine the weights of the hidden neurons, and also the output weights, where actually you are going to sum them by using LMS procedure. This is two way. One is by using LMS procedure, training the input side, and also you are training the output side. And last one is a supervised learning of centers. Now, our RBFN is most general, with all parameters are free and subjected to standard supervised learning. Okay, how actually an RBFN network will learn the features? So let us say you have taken 10 or 20 features of a particular object. How this algorithm is going to learn? This algorithm is going to learn as gradient descent algorithm, which we have seen in the previous class. What actually gradient descent algorithm will do? It will calculate the error between output and input, and it tunes the weight vector so that difference between the present error and the previous error will get reduced. That's why we call it as gradient descent. So the error gradient must get reduced. Okay, any doubt here till now? Any doubt? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Are you able to follow? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And the error required in the gradient descent algorithm is basically half of k is equal to 1 to q. Okay, k equal to 1 to q, dk is output, summation I is equal to 1 to q. You have chosen q basis functions which were less than number of iterations, and wi is the input weight vector. W naught is constant. I not shown W naught, it is from W1 only, into g xk minus mu I whole square. This is your training function which we adopted for Gaussian training function, into S. S is a constant. So this entire value, I'll name it as Ek. Ek represents the error. So error square is taken. That's why Ek by root 2 whole square will become Ek square by 1 by 2. This is done for each iteration, and the total error in the network is the sum of the squares of the errors in the each iteration. So once you get a total error in this network, what we do, each training set, we are going to get different centers. Okay, that's because mu I is variable and xk is your input. Okay, and let us say, and different amount of spreading you are going to get, and different amounts of weight vectors also you are going to get. Each iteration weights get tuned to different values. Okay, so the individual gradients are taken with reference to weights. Dou epsilon by dou wi is taken, and dou e by dou wi, dou e by mu I is taken, and dou e by dou k is taken. Okay, so finally what you remember is, instead of so by taking the partial derivatives with reference to w input, mu centers, and k covariance matrix, we have the weight update equation. You remember the final weight update equations only. How we are going to update the weights? New weights wi k plus 1, that is let us say W1, how W1 changes in the k iteration, suppose fifth iteration. So W first weight vector in 5 plus 1 sixth iteration is equal to the same weight vector W1 in the in fifth iteration minus eta 1 into dou ek by dou wik. So future value is the function of present weight and the learning rate eta 1 and the derivative of dou e by dou w. If this derivative is positive, then what happens? Future weight will be less than the present weight, because eta cannot be negative, eta is a learning rate. Okay, if this derivative gives negative, then the new weight will be more than the previous weight. So either the weight will increase or the weight will decrease depending on the rate of change of error with reference to the present one. Okay, similarly the centers are also going to change according to this algorithm. Mu I k minus eta 2 into dou e k by dou mu I in the kth iteration. What happen? Remember one thing, eta 1 is for the weight and eta 2 is for mu I. So there are different learning rates for the weight vector and different learnings for the centers of the weight vector. And also the spread matrix is varied in according to this equation, which is also in the same manner with a learning rate of eta 3. So by changing the weight vector and the center and the spreading of the weight, we are going to get the final value which gets us to a particular error. That is, error gets minimized after the kth iteration. So each time our centers are also varied, weights are also varied, and the spreading also varied. This makes this RBFN more complex when compared to the linear algorithms which I studied in the previous case. Okay. Any doubt till now? Any doubt here? Now we will look into one application, actually face recognition. What we do in the face recognition? Remember, this entire process consisting of recognition of a person's face. So what we do is consider a person's face. You take his face under different conditions. For example, let us take from front only you take, but only one thing is under different lighting conditions, or you take a left side or right side under different mood or variety of conditions. Let us say 10 different photo of the same person under different conditions are taken. Like this, let us say you take around 100 people. So totally how much you are going to get? 100 people into 10 faces, 10 photographs per person to become 1000 photographs. So these 1000 photographs are used to train your RBFN network. What is your aim actually? Suppose any one of these 100 persons face randomly, if I give, whichever is not in my training set, whether my RBFN network is able to recognize this one. It is a multi-class level problem. For example, if there are 100 persons, it means that there are C1 to C100. C1 belongs to first person, C2 belongs to second person, let us say C100 belongs to 100%. So you should be able to uniquely point out this face belongs to this person only. That is actually the major aim of this RBFN. So what we do, how do you recognize the face? So face is basically a two-dimensional matrix because we have taken a picture, and what we do, we don't train with a face because it gives you a lot of pixels. We extract the features of the face. Okay, so by using those features, you are going to save those features, and the new face, whenever it is given, it is going to extract the facial data and compare the features with the whichever is trained and able to recognize. Now, how are you going to extract the features? Okay, let us say a face has a person's face is unique to individual persons. No two persons will be similar to each other except one or two cases. Okay, generally assuming that each person is different, each face has, let us say, different features. But all the features, let us say if there are 100 features for a face, all 100 cannot be taken. Your matrix will become very high, and that problem will never get solved. That's why what we will do, we'll be able to use principal component analysis. What we do, we consider a facial image, consider as an n cross n array, okay, with the intensity values. We are going to train the neural network to take intensity values, so that in the intensity value, how they are training and how many such features are present. Let's say 10 different feature vectors are extracted, and that I have named as f equal to f1, f2, f3, so on up to fq. So this is for one person. Like this, let us say there are 10%, means all the 10% we are going to take, and that forms C classes. That's if C is equal to 10. So what we do, we first define the covariance matrix. What is the covariance matrix? K is equal to 1 by Q. Q is the number of this one. How many sample Q images you are taken? Summation I equal to 1 to Q. Fi minus F tilde into Fi minus F tilde transpose, where F tilde is equal to 1 by K into summation for all values of Q Fi. Once we take this value, we are going to calculate eigenvectors and eigenvalues of the covariance matrix. So those eigenvectors are naming this as n1, n2, n3 up to n gamma. These eigenvectors which are large in magnitude, we neglect the eigenvectors which are very small values. So let us say large eigenvalues, eigenvectors which have large value will correspond to the specific features of the faces. Let us say out of by solving this one, let us say if we get 20 features, out of which 10 are very significant and remaining 10 become very small, means we take only 10. So all of them 1 to 10 need not be taken, 2, 5, 6, something like that. So those 10 will represent the important features of the face. Your network is trained with those features. So each person, I'll take eigenvectors, and those eigenvectors will correspond to features. Those features I'm going to train them. So once I am going to train this one by using xi is equal to pt into fi, p corresponds to this one, which corresponds to major eigenvectors. But what very important problem with this principal component analysis, it can tell what are the different features of an individual face, but it cannot distinguish two persons by their images. So just like we can distinguish two people by their faces, this cannot be done by PCA. It can only tell which are the relevant features in a particular matrix. So what we do, we use one more component that is known as Fisher's linear discriminant. That is LDA, linear discriminant analysis is used for this eigenvectors, and we define two things. One is between the class, that is between the class 1 and class 2, and within a class, that is within a subclass. We are going to define two matrices, that is SB and SW are defined for a particular matrix. Once we define this particular matrix, we are going to calculate how much, if we take, let us say 10 faces of a same person, what is the maximum difference between those 10 faces we are going to understand. And let us take two different person spaces, what is the maximum difference? Those are the values of the between the classes SB and between within the class SW. Once we are able to take these values, I'm going next, if new image is given, then those feature vectors of the images with the optimal discrimination we are going to calculate, and that is used for the classification of the images. Any doubt here? Any doubt till now? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Are you able to follow? Jayendra, are you able to follow?
Yes, sir. Kind of, yeah.
But only one thing is you have to read it second time so that it will become more clear to you. I'm giving you the basic idea, but you require a second reading for this one. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now,
Okay, sir.
determination of structure and initialization of RBFN. How actually you are going to, you know that so much amount of one structure, neural network you are designed, and you have to train the neural network, and you know that how you have to train. What is the input for the network? The number of the inputs to the network, that is very important, is equal to number of features. Suppose a face has 20 features, out of which you know that only 5 features are very distinctive, only by using those 5 features you can distinguish the face of two persons. So your neural network is trained only with those features and not with 20 features. So you train your neural network with 5 features. And number of outputs, how many number of outputs you have? How number of outputs depends on how many number of people you are trained. Let us say you are trained the neural network with 10 people. Then you should be able to tell whether this face belongs to person 1 or person 2 or person 3. Therefore, a output of the network should be 10 because you're trained with 10 number of people. That's what is very important. Output is equal to number of classes C. The number of RBF units are approximately appropriately incremented through an iterative procedure. So continuously I'm going to change my weight vector. Suppose that I have taken 5 features of a person and such 10 images I have. So first what I will do, I'll train my neural network with the weight vectors changing for that person. I'll optimize and I'll suppose I give a new image, you should be able to recognize that person. So once I complete the training of the neural network with that person, next what I will do, I'll train the same neural network with another person with the different 10 images. This I will do so the weight vectors will keep getting changed for person to person. So ultimately, after 100 images with 5 features in each images, I would have trained the entire network with some certain value W cap. This W cap will be optimized for the network. Once I repeatedly train the neural network, and suppose that out of these 10%, randomly if I give one more face, then you should be able to recognize whether it belongs to person 4 or person 5. That is the total aim of this training in RBFN network. So you should be able to recognize person 4 and person 5 very separately, and not that person 4 is classified into 6 and 6 is classified into 1. So that is done by initializing the centers of the RBF through the iterative procedure. So each time MUI changes, and then what we do, we are going to get the final optimum value of the W. Okay. Next one, there is one more procedure which is known as hybrid learning algorithm. In the hybrid learning algorithm, let us take input as ZK and hidden RBF network, and a signal from the output neuron J is defined in a standard neural network as WY. Y is your output, and input, let us say delta and WHI. Y is a function of input network, input samples that is defined in the delta, and the weight vector. So simply y is equal to W into delta, that you remember. Or let us say y is equal to S transpose into W. Okay. So optimal weight vectors is obtained by keeping the RBF parameters fixed. So what I'm going to do, I'll fix the center but vary the weight vectors. So once I match my weight vectors for the desired classification, so that if I, let us say, train with the 10 data of a single person, suppose I give a 11th data, you should be able to tell whether that photo belongs to the same person or not. Finally, the optimum weight matrix is written as T into R transpose into R whole raised inverse into R transpose, where R is the matrix which is obtained by a single row of RBF network. So for one person, for I'm going to obtain one matrix R, such for one training. So if you train it 10 times, then R will be the mean value of those training parameters. That is for a single person. Once I do this, I am obtaining the weight optimization I will do for a single person. This is repeated for multiple persons. So once I obtain the final value W cap, which is optimized for all the people, then I will be able to tell whether then my network can be network is able to classify the final values or not. Okay, so this is a major application of your RBF algorithm. Okay, so any doubt till now?
Sir, it will be given as a short notes, sir.
Huh?
Short notes.
Which one?
This hybrid and all.
But hybrid learning algorithm is only less than half a page in the textbook. Okay. So, but what I presume is, see here, this is entire, this is a single one. See here, application to email face recognition is a one question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that what I do, I have taken around 1 to 1.5 pages because there are so many face photographs were there. So we cannot draw all those face photographs. So whatever is done, I have summarized in this one. Okay, so the summary will be asked for 6 to 8 marks.
Okay.
Okay, once you read from the textbook, if you fail anything missing, so anything I have to cover, I'll cover you more. Okay. Any doubt?
No, sir.
Any doubt in the class? So this completes you module 3. Module 3 is an exhaustive module. So what happens?